The sound of shattering glass jolted me from my concentration. I'd been grading papers at the dining room table, enjoying a rare moment of peace in my usually chaotic life. But of course that couldn't last. "Oops, sorry, Leah," Bella's shrill voice called from the kitchen. "I'll clean it up later." I gritted my teeth, forcing myself to take a deep breath before responding. "It's fine, Bella. I'll take care of it." As I grabbed the broom and dustpan, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the hallway mirror. Dark circles under my eyes, hair pulled back in a messy bun, I barely recognized myself. At 35, I should be thriving in my career as an assistant professor, not playing maid to my irresponsible sister-in-law. The front door opened and Sam trudged in, looking exhausted. "Hey, honey," he mumbled, barely meeting my eyes. "Sam, we need to talk," I said, setting aside the broom. "Why are Bella's things all over our guest room?" He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Look, she's going through a rough patch. Lost her job again. I told her she could crash here for a few days." "A few days?" I echoed, my voice rising. "Sam, her stuff is everywhere. It looks like she's moving in." Before he could respond, Bella sauntered into the room, still in her pajamas despite it being nearly noon. "Oh, hey, big bro. Thanks again for letting me stay. You're a lifesaver." I watched in disbelief as she planted a kiss on Sam's cheek, then flopped onto our couch, reaching for the TV remote. "Bella," I said, trying to keep my voice level, "I thought you were looking for a new job today." She waved a hand dismissively. "Oh, you know how it is. The market's tough right now. I'll get to it tomorrow." I turned to Sam, silently pleading for backup, but he just shrugged helplessly. "I'm heading to bed," he mumbled. "Early shift tomorrow." As he disappeared upstairs, I felt a familiar knot of tension forming in my stomach. Something was off with Sam lately, beyond just the stress of his job. We'd barely spoken in weeks, and now this situation with Bella. My phone buzzed, a text from my mother-in-law, Christine. "Heard Bella's staying with you, so kind of you to help out. Roger and I are thrilled you're all getting along so well." I nearly laughed out loud. Of course, Christine and Roger were thrilled. It meant they didn't have to deal with their youngest daughter's latest crisis. "Leah?" Bella's voice interrupted my thoughts. "Do you guys have any snacks? I'm starving." I closed my eyes, counting to 10 before responding. "There's fruit in the fridge, Bella. Help yourself." She made a face. "Ugh, no junk food? How do you live like this?" As I watched her rummage through our kitchen, leaving a trail of mess in her wake, I felt something inside me snap. "That's it," I muttered, grabbing my keys and heading for the door. "Where are you going?" Bella called after me. "Out," I replied curtly. "Don't wait up." I slammed the door behind me, relishing the momentary silence. As I got into my car, I realized I had no idea where I was going. All I knew was that I couldn't spend another minute in that house. My phone buzzed again, another text from Christine. "By the way, Olivia mentioned she might need a place to stay for a while, too. You have room for one more, right?" I stared at the message in disbelief. This couldn't be happening. How had my life spiraled so far out of control? As I pulled out of the driveway, I made a silent vow to myself. Something had to change, and soon. I just had to figure out what and how. I returned home late that night, hoping to find some peace. Instead, I walked into a disaster zone. Bella's clothes were strewn across the living room, and the kitchen sink overflowed with dirty dishes. The scent of stale pizza hung in the air. "Sam?" I called out, my voice tight with frustration. "We need to talk. Now!" He emerged from our bedroom, looking sheepish. "Hey, Leah, I was just about to clean up." "Save it," I snapped. "This isn't about the mess. It's about Bella. She can't stay here, Sam. It's not working." His face hardened. "She's my sister, Leah. Where's she supposed to go?" "I don't know, but this isn't sustainable. Our house isn't a halfway home for unemployed relatives." Sam's eyes flashed with anger. "That's rich coming from you. At least I'm trying to help my family." "What's that supposed to mean?" He hesitated, then blurted out, "I lost my job, okay? 2 weeks ago. I've been trying to figure out how to tell you." The room spun. I gripped the back of a chair to steady myself. "You what? How could you keep this from me?" "I was ashamed," he mumbled. "I thought I could find something else quickly, but..." "But what? You decided to invite your jobless sister to live with us instead?" "She understands what I'm going through," Sam shouted. "Unlike you, always wrapped up in your work, your students, your precious career." The words stung like a slap. I've been supporting us, Sam, paying the bills, keeping this household running, and this is how you repay me? Before he could respond, Bella stumbled in, clearly tipsy. Whoa, what's with all the yelling? Can't a girl get some beauty sleep around here? I rounded on her. Bella, this isn't working. You need to find somewhere else to stay. Her lower lip trembled. But Sam said I could stay as long as I needed, right, Sam? I turned to my husband, silently daring him to side with her. To my shock, he nodded. Yeah, Bells, you're welcome here. Unbelievable, I muttered. So that's it? I don't get a say in my own home? Sam's expression softened. Leah, please, we're all going through tough times. Can't we just support each other? I laughed bitterly. Support? Is that what you call lying to me for weeks? Inviting your sister to move in without even discussing it? Bella piped up. Hey, I can hear you. You know, if you don't want me here, just say so. I have been saying so, I exploded. But neither of you seems to care what I think or feel. Sam reached for me, but I jerked away. Just don't. I can't deal with this right now. I stormed upstairs, slamming our bedroom door behind me. As I collapsed onto the bed, my phone buzzed. A text from Olivia. Hey sis, everything okay? Sam mentioned you might need some help around the house. I could come stay for a while if you need me. I stared at the message in disbelief. Was this some kind of sick joke? Had Sam invited his entire family to move in without telling me? Downstairs, I could hear Sam and Bella talking in hushed voices. My husband and his sister conspiring against me in my own home. The betrayal cut deep. I typed out a quick response to Olivia. Thanks, but I think we have enough house guests at the moment. Talk soon. As I hit send, a cold determination settled over me. This couldn't continue. Something had to give, and I was done being the only one making sacrifices. Tomorrow, I decided, I would start looking for my own place. If Sam and Bella wanted to play house, they could do it without me. It was time to take back control of my life, even if it meant walking away from everything I thought I knew. With that resolution, I drifted into an uneasy sleep, dreaming of empty houses and endless arguments, wondering how my life had unraveled so quickly. The shrill ring of my phone jolted me awake. I fumbled for it, squinting at the screen. Christine's name flashed and my stomach dropped. Just what I needed. Another lecture from my mother-in-law. Hello, I answered, my voice still thick with sleep. Leah, dear, I hope I didn't wake you. Christine's saccharine tone grated on my nerves. I just wanted to check in. How are things with Bella? I bit back a sarcastic retort. Things are tense, Christine. I don't think this arrangement is working out. Oh, nonsense, she chirped. I'm sure you're all getting along splendidly. Bella's always been such a joy to have around. I nearly choked. A joy? Christine, she's turned our house upside down. She doesn't clean, doesn't look for work, and Sam. Now, Leah, Christine interrupted, her voice taking on a steely edge. I'm sure you're exaggerating. Bella's going through a rough patch. As family, we need to support her. And what about supporting me? I snapped. This is my home, too, and I didn't agree to any of this. There was a pause. Then Christine spoke again, her tone dripping with disappointment. I expected better from you, Leah. You've always been so rigid. Perhaps this is an opportunity for you to learn some flexibility. The conversation devolved from there, with Christine lecturing me on family loyalty and the importance of sacrifice. By the time I hung up, my blood was boiling. I stormed downstairs, ready to confront Sam and Bella, only to find the living room in even worse shape than before. Bella lounged on the couch, still in her pajamas, scrolling through her phone. Oh, hey, Leah, she said without looking up. We're out of milk. Could you pick some up? Something inside me snapped. No, Bella, I will not pick up milk. This isn't a hotel, and I'm not your maid. She finally glanced up, her eyes wide with feigned innocence. Geez, what's your problem? I was just asking. My problem, I seethed, is that you've been here for days, contributing nothing but mess and chaos. When are you planning to look for a job, or at least clean up after yourself? Bella's face crumpled. You don't understand. It's hard out there. I'm trying, but... But what? I interrupted. You seem to have plenty of energy for going out drinking and watching TV all day. Leave her alone, Leah. Sam's voice came from behind me. I whirled to face him, fury building. Of course you're taking her side, I spat. God forbid either of you take any responsibility. Sam's face hardened. That's not fair. We're both going through a tough time. And I'm not, I shot back. I'm the only one holding things together while you two play house. The argument escalated, voices rising until we were all shouting over each other. Suddenly, a crash from the kitchen silenced us. We rushed in to find Bella standing amidst shattered glass, my grandmother's antique vase in pieces at her feet. I was just trying to clean up, she whimpered. I stared at the broken shards, feeling something break inside me as well. Without a word, I grabbed my keys and headed for the door. "Where are you going?" Sam called after me. "Anywhere but here," I replied, my voice cold. "I can't do this anymore." As I pulled out of the driveway, my phone buzzed again. A text from Roger, my father-in-law. "Heard you're having some trouble at home. Remember, family comes first. Don't let your career get in the way of what really matters." I tossed the phone aside, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. They were all against me. Sam, Bella, Christine, Roger. How had I become the villain in my own life? As I drove aimlessly, one thought crystallized in my mind. Something had to change, and if no one else was willing to make that change, it would have to be me. I returned home late that evening, exhausted and emotionally drained. The house was quiet, but the tension in the air was palpable. As I stepped into the living room, I froze. Bella had redecorated, my carefully chosen furnishings pushed aside to make room for her garish taste. "What the hell is this?" I muttered, my fists clenching at my sides. "Oh, hey, Leah!" Bella chirped, emerging from the kitchen. I thought I'd spruce the place up a bit. It was so boring before. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to remain calm. "Bella, we need to talk. This can't continue. You need to start looking for a job and your own place to live." She rolled her eyes. "Geez, you sound just like Mom and Dad. Can't you just chill?" "No, I can't chill," I snapped. "This is my home, and you're treating it like a frat house. Where's Sam?" As if on cue, Sam trudged down the stairs looking sheepish. "Hey, honey, I see you've noticed the changes." I rounded on him. "You let her do this without even asking me?" He shrugged helplessly. "I thought it might cheer you up. You've been so stressed lately." "Stressed?" I laughed bitterly. I wonder why. Maybe because my husband lost his job and didn't tell me, then invited his unemployed sister to live with us indefinitely? Bella piped up. "Hey, I'm right here, you know." "Trust me, I'm aware," I retorted. "Look, I'm setting some ground rules. Starting tomorrow, you both need to be actively job hunting, and Bella, you need to contribute to household chores and expenses." They exchanged glances, and I saw something pass between them that made my blood run cold. "Actually," Sam began hesitantly, "I've been thinking maybe we could invite Olivia to stay for a while, too. You know, to help with expenses." I stared at him, dumbfounded. "Are you serious? You want to invite your other sister to live here, too?" "Well, yeah," Bella chimed in. "Olivia's got a great job. She could totally help out with the bills and stuff." The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. They weren't just taking advantage of my hospitality. They were planning to turn our home into some kind of family commune, with me footing the bill. "Absolutely not," I said firmly. "This is not up for discussion. In fact, Bella, I want you out by the end of the week." Sam's face hardened. "You can't just kick her out, Leah. She's family." "And what am I?" I shot back. "Because lately it feels like I'm just a meal ticket and a maid service." The argument escalated quickly, voices rising until we were all shouting over each other. Suddenly my phone buzzed. A text from Olivia. "Hey sis, just booked my flight. Can't wait to see you all next week." I stared at the message in disbelief, then looked up at Sam and Bella's guilty faces. "You already invited her," I said, my voice dangerously quiet, without even talking to me. Sam reached for me, but I jerked away. "Leah, please, we're just trying to keep the family together." "Family?" I laughed bitterly. "That what you call this? Because from where I'm standing it looks a lot like betrayal." I stormed upstairs, my mind racing. This was it, the final straw. I couldn't live like this anymore, constantly undermined and disrespected in my own home. As I threw some clothes into a suitcase, I made a decision. It was time to put myself first for once. I'd stay with a colleague for a few days, clear my head, and figure out my next move. But one thing was certain. I wouldn't be coming back to this chaos. It was time to reclaim my life, even if it meant leaving behind everything I thought I knew. With a heavy heart but a sense of resolve, I zipped up my suitcase and headed for the door, ignoring Sam and Bella's protests. As I drove away, I felt a mix of fear and exhilaration. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in months, I felt like I was taking control of my own destiny. I sat in my colleague's guest room, staring at my phone. Olivia's number glared back at me, daring me to make the call. With a deep breath, I hit dial. Leah? Olivia's voice was warm, but cautious. Is everything okay? I've been trying to reach Sam, but he's not answering. I laughed bitterly. Oh, everything's just peachy. Did you know about their little plan? Plan? What are you talking about? I filled her in on the chaos of the past few weeks. Bella moving in, Sam's job loss, and now their scheme to have Olivia join the fray. Oh my God. Olivia gasped. Leah, I had no idea. Sam just said you guys could use some help with expenses. I never meant to intrude. Well, that makes one of you, I muttered. There was a pause, then Olivia spoke again, her voice firm. I'm canceling my flight. This is ridiculous. Have you talked to Mom and Dad about this? I scoffed. Oh, I've talked to them all right. They think I'm being selfish for not wanting to support the entire family. That's absurd, Olivia said. Look, I'm coming into town next week for a conference. Why don't we meet up and figure this out? As we made plans, I felt a glimmer of hope. At least one person in this family seemed to have their head on straight. After hanging up, I checked my messages. 5 missed calls from Sam, 3 from Bella, and a scathing text from Christine. Leah, how could you abandon your family like this? I thought we raised you better. Anger bubbled up inside me. Before I could stop myself, I fired back a response. You didn't raise me at all, Christine. I'm Sam's wife, not your daughter, and right now, I'm not sure I want to be either. Seconds after hitting send, my phone rang. It was Roger. Leah, he began, his voice stern, I think you owe your mother-in-law an apology. I exploded. An apology? Are you kidding me? Your children have taken over my home, disrespected me at every turn, and you think I'm the one who needs to apologize? Now? Listen here. Roger started, but I cut him off. No, you listen. I'm done being the family doormat. If Sam and Bella want to play house, they can do it without me, and you and Christine can stop pretending you have any say in my life. I hung up, my hands shaking. Part of me felt liberated, but another part was terrified. What had I just done? My phone buzzed again, a text from Sam. Leah, please come home. We need to talk. I stared at the message, torn. Part of me wanted to rush back, to try and salvage what was left of my marriage. But a stronger part knew that going back now would just mean falling into the same old patterns. As I debated, another text came through, this time from Bella. Hey sis, no hard feelings about earlier, right? BW, I borrowed your car to go job hunting. Hope that's cool. That was the final straw. I'd left my car at home when I stormed out, and now Bella was joyriding in it, probably with no intention of actually looking for work. In that moment, everything became crystal clear. I couldn't go back. Not now, maybe not ever. It was time to start putting myself first. With shaking hands, I typed out a response to Sam. I'm sorry, but I can't come home right now. I need some time to think. Please tell Bella to return my car immediately, or I'll report it stolen. As I hit send, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. For the first time in months, I was standing up for myself. The road ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear. I was done being a supporting character in my own life story. It was time to take the lead. I stood on the doorstep of my own home, feeling like a stranger. It had been a week since I'd left, and Olivia's arrival for her conference had finally given me the courage to return. Taking a deep breath, I unlocked the door and stepped inside. The chaos that greeted me was beyond anything I'd imagined. Clothes, empty takeout containers, and beer bottles littered every surface. The air was thick with the stench of stale alcohol and unwashed bodies. Hello? I called out, my voice echoing in the eerie silence. Olivia appeared from the kitchen, her face a mask of shock and disgust. Leah, thank God you're here. I don't even know what to say. Before I could respond, Bella stumbled down the stairs, clearly hungover. Oh, hey sis, she slurred. Didn't expect to see you back so soon. My blood boiled. Where's Sam? I demanded. As if on cue, my husband emerged from our bedroom, looking disheveled and reeking of booze. Leah? He mumbled, rubbing his eyes. What are you doing here? What am I doing here? I repeated incredulously. This is my house, Sam. The better question is, what the hell have you been doing? Olivia stepped in, her voice tight with anger. They've been having a nonstop party, Leah. I got here yesterday, and it's been like this the whole time. I tried to talk some sense into them, but Sam had the decency to look ashamed. Look, we just got a little carried away. Things have been tough, you know? Tough? I exploded. You think this is tough? Try working your ass off to support a family that doesn't appreciate you, only to come home and find it turned into a frat house. Bella piped up. Hey, we've been looking for jobs. Well, kind of. It's not our fault the market sucks. I rounded on her. And my car? Where is it, Bella? She paled. Oh, about that. There might have been a tiny accident. The room spun. I gripped the wall for support, trying to process everything. That's when I noticed something on the coffee table. Job applications, but not for the positions I'd expected. Sam, I said slowly, picking up the papers. What are these? He shifted uncomfortably. Well, I've been thinking, maybe it's time for a change. Those are applications for jobs overseas. You know, a fresh start for both of us. I stared at him, dumbfounded. Both of us? You made this decision without even talking to me? And what about my career, my students? I just thought. He trailed off, unable to meet my eyes. Suddenly, everything clicked into place. You didn't lose your job, did you? I said, my voice dangerously quiet. You quit, you were bored, so you threw away our stability, our future, without even discussing it with me. The silence that followed was deafening. Sam's guilty expression confirmed my suspicions. Olivia stepped forward, her face a mix of sympathy and disgust. Leah, I had no idea things had gotten this bad. I'm so sorry. I barely heard her. My world was crumbling around me, years of trust and partnership dissolving in an instant. Get out, I whispered, then louder. All of you, get out of my house. Now. Bella started to protest, but Olivia silenced her with a look. Come on, she said, grabbing both Bella and Sam by the arm. We're leaving. As they shuffled out, Sam turned back. Leah, please, we can work this out. I met his gaze, seeing a stranger where my husband used to be. No, Sam, we can't. This isn't just about the mess or Bella or even the job. You've betrayed my trust in every possible way. We're done. The door closed behind them, leaving me alone in the wreckage of my marriage. As the gravity of the situation hit me, I sank to the floor, tears streaming down my face. Everything I thought I knew about my life, my relationship, had been a lie. But amidst the pain and betrayal, a small voice in the back of my mind whispered that maybe, just maybe, this was the push I needed to finally start living life on my own terms. I stood in the wreckage of my living room, surrounded by the debris of my shattered marriage. The silence was deafening after the chaos of the past few weeks. My phone buzzed incessantly, messages from Sam, Bella, Christine, and Roger, all demanding explanations, apologies, reconciliation. I ignored them all. With trembling hands, I dialed my lawyer's number. Janet, it's Leah. I need to file for divorce. Today. As I hung up, a knock at the door startled me. I opened it to find Olivia, her face etched with concern. Leah, I'm so sorry, she began, but I cut her off. Don't, just don't. I can't handle any more apologies right now. She nodded, understanding. I'm not here to apologize. I'm here to help. What do you need? I laughed bitterly. A time machine? A new family? A life that isn't falling apart? Olivia stepped inside, surveying the mess. Let's start with something more manageable. How about we clean this place up? As we worked, Olivia filled me in on what had happened after they left. Sam and Bella were staying with their parents, all of them in denial about the gravity of the situation. They think you'll cool off and come around, Olivia said, shaking her head. I tried to tell them this was different, but they won't listen. My phone rang again. Sam? This time I answered. Leah, please, he begged. We can work this out. I'll get my old job back. I'll make Bella move out. Just come home. I am home, Sam, I replied, my voice steady. You're the one who needs to leave. I've called a lawyer. It's over. There was a long pause. You don't mean that, he finally said. What about our life together? Our plans? What plans? I snapped. The ones you made without me? The job applications for positions halfway across the world? Or maybe you mean your plans to turn our home into a flophouse for your irresponsible sister? That's not fair, Sam protested. We've been through a lot. No, Sam, I've been through a lot. You've been having a midlife crisis at my expense. I'm done. I hung up, my hands shaking. Olivia placed a comforting hand on my shoulder. You did the right thing, she said softly. Before I could respond, there was a commotion outside. We rushed to the window to see Sam's car screeching into the driveway, Bella in the passenger seat. Oh no, Olivia muttered. This isn't good. Sam burst through the door, his eyes wild. "Leah, you can't do this! We can fix this!" Bella stumbled in behind him, clearly drunk. "Yeah, sis, don't be such a buzzkill. We were just having some fun." I felt something snap inside me. Years of suppressed anger and resentment bubbled to the surface. "Fun," I shouted. "You call destroying my home, my marriage, my life fun? Get out, both of you. Get out now before I call the police." Sam reached for me, but Olivia stepped between us. She said, "Leave, Sam. Now." For a moment I thought he might argue, but then his shoulders slumped in defeat. "Come on, Bella," he muttered. "Let's go." As they shuffled out, Bella turned back, her face twisted with spite. "You know what, Leah? You were always too uptight. Sam's better off without you." The door slammed behind them, leaving Olivia and me in stunned silence. "I can't believe this is happening," I whispered, sinking to the floor. Olivia sat beside me, wrapping an arm around my shoulders. "I know it doesn't feel like it now, but you're going to be okay. You're strong, Leah. Stronger than all of them put together." As I sat there, surrounded by the ruins of my old life, I felt a strange mix of grief and relief wash over me. Everything I thought I knew had crumbled, but from the ashes I could see the faint glimmer of a new beginning. "You're right," I said, wiping away tears I hadn't realized I'd shed. "I am strong, and it's time I started living for myself." 1 month after the explosive confrontation, I stood in my newly redecorated living room, breathing in the scent of fresh paint and new beginnings. The divorce papers lay signed on the coffee table, a bittersweet symbol of my newfound freedom. A gentle whine drew my attention to Rosie, my rescue dog, who patted over for a scratch behind the ears. "Good girl," I murmured, grateful for her unconditional love. The doorbell rang, and I tensed, half expecting another drama-filled encounter. But it was Olivia, her face a mix of determination and concern. "Hey, sis," she said, stepping inside. "How are you holding up?" I managed a small smile. "Better than I expected, actually. It's peaceful." Olivia nodded, then took a deep breath. "Leah, there's something you should know. I went to see Sam and Bella at Mom and Dad's place yesterday." My heart raced. "And?" "It was a disaster," she sighed. "Bella's drinking has gotten worse, and Sam, he's a mess. He kept talking about winning you back, making grand plans that made no sense." I closed my eyes, fighting a wave of conflicting emotions. "That's not my problem anymore, Olivia." "I know," she said quickly, "and I'm not here to guilt you. I finally told them all exactly what I thought of their behavior, Mom and Dad included." My eyes snapped open. "You did what?" Olivia's face hardened. "I told them they were selfish, irresponsible, and that they'd driven away the best person in this family. I said if they didn't get their act together, they'd lose me too." I stared at her, speechless. Olivia had always been the peacekeeper, avoiding confrontation at all costs. "You didn't have to do that," I whispered. She grabbed my hand. "Yes, I did. Leah, I'm so sorry I didn't stand up for you sooner. Can you forgive me?" Tears welled up in my eyes as I pulled her into a hug. "There's nothing to forgive. You're here now, and that means everything." As we embraced, my phone buzzed. A text from Sam. "I understand now. I'm sorry for everything. I hope one day you can forgive me." I showed it to Olivia, who raised an eyebrow. "Are you going to respond?" I thought for a moment, then typed, "I forgive you, Sam. Not for you, but for me. I hope you find peace and learn from this. Goodbye." As I hit send, a weight I didn't know I'd been carrying lifted from my shoulders. I turned to Olivia, suddenly feeling lighter than I had in years. "You know what? I think it's time for a celebration," I declared. Olivia grinned. "What did you have in mind?" An hour later, we sat on my back porch, sipping wine and watching the sunset. Rosie lounged at our feet, content in the peaceful atmosphere. "To new beginnings," Olivia toasted, raising her glass. "And to family," I added, "the ones we choose." As we clinked glasses, I reflected on the tumultuous journey that had brought me here. The pain, the betrayal, the heartache. It had all led to this moment of clarity and self-discovery. I realized that in losing the family I thought I needed, I'd found the strength I never knew I had. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in years, I was excited about the future. "You know," I said to Olivia, "I think I'm going to apply for that department head position at the university, the one I always thought was out of my reach." Olivia beamed. "That's fantastic. You'll be amazing." As the last rays of sunlight painted the sky in brilliant hues, I felt a profound sense of peace wash over me. The chaos of the past few months had forged me into someone stronger, someone unafraid to stand up for herself and pursue her dreams. I looked at Olivia, my faithful ally, and down at Rosie, my loyal companion. This, I realized, was what true family looked like. Not the toxic relationships I'd left behind, but the supportive, loving connections I'd chosen for myself. "Here's to the next chapter," I said softly, more to myself than anyone else. And as the stars began to twinkle in the darkening sky, I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, I was ready to face them, on my own terms, with my chosen family by my side.
Please make sure the loan repayment is handled. While I was busy at work, an unexpected email suddenly appeared. I immediately contacted Bruce, who started explaining calmly. "Oh, sorry about that," he said. "I've fallen for someone else and have decided to start a new life with her." He also disclosed his intention to take the luxury car that was recently purchased under my name with a loan. Despite my attempts to talk him out of it, my husband ignored my pleas, abruptly ended our conversation, and became unreachable. Eventually, Bruce vanished with his new partner, leaving behind a considerable amount of debt for me. As the mother of our 9-year-old son, I was stunned by this unfair turn of events. At 38 years old, my name is Tiffany, and my husband Bruce, who is of the same age, left our family, which includes our bright son Russell. Russell has always shown exceptional intelligence, engaging with academic articles and discussing complex issues from a young age. On the other hand, Bruce was never stable, struggling to keep a steady job. Despite my steady full-time employment and our future plans, Bruce had only recently maintained a stable income for about 4 years. Bruce had often talked about making lasting memories together as a family, which led us to decide to purchase a $110,000 camper van. However, Bruce failed to meet the finance company's requirements for a loan, so I had to take it out in my name. On the day the camper van was delivered, I received a shocking email from Bruce stating he would take the van since the loan was in my name and that I would be responsible for the repayments. Confused, I called him immediately, only to hear him confess that he had fallen in love with another woman and decided to pursue a relationship with her. I thought it was just a fleeting thing, but it turned serious, so I'm planning to start a new life with her, he said, and mentioned the divorce papers that we had argued about before. He stated his intention to file them and abruptly ended the call. This conversation was the first time I realized the depth of Bruce's betrayal, a truly shocking moment. All my subsequent attempts to contact him were fruitless, and I was left to face this harsh new reality alone. When I returned home from work and went to check the drawer where the divorce papers should have been, I found it empty. The papers were gone, and I was left grappling with the huge debt from a $110,000 car loan. Despite my countless attempts to contact my husband through emails and calls, he never responded. My son Russell, noticing that I was acting differently, approached me with concern after dinner. "Mom, what's wrong? You haven't been eating much lately." "Are you okay?" he asked gently. Yeah, maybe I'm just tired," I replied, trying to hide my distress. When people lie, they look up to the right. Lying is bad. Dad hasn't been home for 5 days. Did something happen between you two? Russell's acute observation startled me, and I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself. Feeling that I could no longer conceal the truth, I decided to share everything with him. "It's just something your dad would do," I admitted, unsure how to express my sadness. "Aren't you sad?" he asked. "No, I kind of understood from how things were going," Russell replied, his tone detached as if he had foreseen the events. Although he seemed unfazed by the prospect of our family separation, I knew deep down it had to affect him. Silently apologizing to Russell in my thoughts, I tried desperately to distract myself from the turmoil, yet my body betrayed my emotional strain, and my health began to decline. There was a training session at work that day, but I couldn't stand up. Sorry, I can't stand right now. I need to take a break, I managed to say before collapsing. When I regained consciousness, I found myself in a hospital room. The doctor informed me that I needed detailed examinations and admitted me for further observation. Lying there, staring at the IV drip and the hospital's white ceiling, tears began to flow freely. Just then, Russell burst into the room, his face etched with worry. Seeing him so distressed, I quickly wiped my tears. "Mom, what happened? Is it serious? You're not going to die, right?" His voice trembled with fear. "Of course not. I wouldn't leave my dear son alone," I reassured him, my voice soft but firm. "That's good. I was so scared when the school teacher called to say you were taken to the hospital," Russell admitted, his relief palpable. Seeing his concern, I realized just how much Russell was affected by everything happening around us, and it strengthened my resolve to handle our challenges more openly with him. The shock was so intense that it felt like my heart might stop. Russell, despite being mature beyond his years, was still just a 9-year-old boy. His concern spurred a strong resolve in me to recover, but my health was deteriorating faster than I expected. After a thorough checkup, the doctors diagnosed me with a serious illness and recommended immediate surgery. Following their advice, I underwent the procedure. A month had passed since Bruce left. By the time I was discharged from the hospital, returning home, I opened the mailbox only to find a demand letter for the car loan payment. I had assumed these payments were being automatically deducted from my account. Panicking, I checked my account balance with my cash card. Shockingly, what was once $42,000 had dwindled to just $54. I thought to myself, Bruce did this. I want to ask him to return the money, but I can't reach him. What should I do? Without the camper van, selling it to recover the funds wasn't an option. As I sank deeper into despair over these misfortunes, Russell noticed my distress. He placed his hand on my forehead and asked, "You look pale. Are you feeling sick again? You don't seem to have a fever, though." "I'm physically fine, but your father took not only the car, but all the money we had saved. I can't work due to my condition, and now we have no money," I explained, feeling overwhelmed. Seeing my predicament, Russell's face lit up with determination. "I see. Then I'll deliver newspapers and search the internet to see if there's any work I can do," he declared. His spirit and resolve encouraged me. It's not the time to be down, I told myself, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. "Sorry for worrying you. I can't afford to be weak. I'll change my mindset and try to do whatever I can," I said, managing a smile for him. Russell smiled back and then suggested something unexpected. "Let's plan how to get the car back from Dad." "How can we do that? The camper van is in your name, right?" he asked. "Yes, but what about it?" "Then maybe we can." Russell began suggesting an idea I hadn't even considered, something completely out of the box. I was stunned. "Also, I have no idea where your father is," I admitted, the reality of our situation settling in. Despite the challenges, Russell's creative thinking and proactive attitude gave me hope that perhaps there was a way to navigate through this crisis. "So let's check my phone," I suggested, remembering how a month ago, when we went hiking as a family, Russell felt a bit disoriented. Surprisingly, the usually reliable Russell had felt lost during that hike. Based on that experience, we bought him a child cell phone and installed a GPS app on it, which both Bruce and I could access. With this app, I can see where Dad is in real time and he's been moving around a lot. Oh, is that so? But what if we find him and he just gives us a vague answer and escapes again? I mused, trying to think ahead. Don't worry, Russell smiled, revealing a hint of a plan. I've already taken precautions. What did you just say? I was taken aback by his initiative. To my amazement, Russell had independently taken action while I was in the hospital, something truly astonishing. I can't believe such a clever child is mine, I thought, impressed by his foresight and resourcefulness. He had even kept tabs on Bruce's whereabouts, including his movements with his mistress. All right, let's teach Dad a lesson for betraying us, I agreed, bolstered by Russell's confidence. Okay, let's start the plan right away, I responded, and together we prepared for what was to come. With Russell by my side, I felt unstoppable. Bring it on, anywhere, anytime, I thought to myself. 5 days later, my phone rang. Ah, it's me. Please, I need your help. Who might this be? I played along, even though I knew the voice all too well. Don't play dumb. It's your husband. I'm being questioned by the police because of you. At this rate, they might ask me to come to the police station voluntarily. Help me out. Oh, is that so? Just wait a moment then, I replied, maintaining my composure. I immediately went with Russell to the location Bruce had mentioned. To my surprise, it was a forest park near our house, a popular camping spot. There Bruce was being questioned by the police in front of his car, looking utterly bewildered. I felt a mix of pity and resolve. I approached the police. We need to talk about a couple. Could you please give us a moment? I asked, and they stepped away. Inside the car, Bruce's mistress sat cross-legged, glaring at us, but her presence no longer mattered. Sorry about that. Thanks for coming. But why did the police suddenly show up at my place? I don't get it, Bruce stammered, confused. That's because I filed a report about the missing camper van, I explained calmly. What? Why would you do that? He asked, bewildered. It's obvious, isn't it? My car was stolen, I stated matter-of-factly. Bruce, foolishly thinking that actions between spouses couldn't be criminal, began to utter nonsensical excuses. But the world isn't that naive. You know you filed for divorce, remember? So we're practically strangers now. And driving a stranger's car without permission is a crime, I explained, as Russell had cleverly figured out. Russell, typical for his sharp mind even at a young age, had pieced everything together. But I didn't steal the car, I just borrowed it for a bit. Bruce protested weakly. Oh, is that so? Well, I'd like to use my car now, so could you return it? That would be helpful, I said, extending my hand for the keys. Bruce, though reluctant, handed them over after a moment. With the keys safely in my possession, Russell, who had been quiet up until now, began to question his father. Hey, why did you abandon your family and choose to run off with her? He asked, his voice steady but curious. Caught off guard by his son's blunt question, Bruce was visibly flustered and awkwardly scratched his head. This prompted Bruce's mistress to chuckle smugly and interject. It's because I'm more attractive than your mother. Look at me, you can see it, right? He fell head over heels for me and decided to leave his family. Quiet. I didn't ask you, old lady. Dad, you answer, Russell commanded with a stern tone. Julia was silenced by Russell's firm directive, but Bruce remained silent. If you can't explain, that's fine. I'll just have the police come back and take you, I threatened, seeing his hesitation. Wait, hold on. Okay, I'll talk, Bruce finally conceded. Julia, it turns out, joined Bruce's company 2 months ago. They were attracted to each other and became involved at the welcome party for new employees. Later, it was discovered that Julia was pregnant, and Bruce decided to start a new life with her, leaving us behind. Why did you take the camper van? I pressed on. I quit my job and thought about selling the car for money. But it seems like you were using it quite a bit, weren't you? I thought it was a waste to sell it right away, so we decided to go on a trip, Bruce explained. Wait, how do you know all this? He asked, puzzled. Remember when Russell got lost? After that, as a precaution, we bought him a kid's cell phone and installed a GPS app. Did you forget? We installed it on your phone too, so I knew where you were all this time, I revealed. By the way, I later found out from Russell that he had pretended to get lost during our family hike. A clever move that helped us prepare for any future uncertainties. I was stunned by Russell's ability to think ahead and his strategic actions. I suspected something was off with Dad, so I came up with this plan to monitor his actions, he explained with a calm that belied his age. You are a formidable child, I remarked, half joking, half serious. I hope never to become an adult like Dad, who betrays important people without a second thought. Bruce, faced with the harsh reality Russell presented, looked pitiful and was unable to offer any defense. In contrast, seeing Russell, only 9 but speaking and thinking with such clarity and firmness, gave me a profound sense of strength and resolve as a mother. I felt I couldn't back down, especially when it came to settling things properly. Also, return the $42,000 you withdrew from my account right now. That was our joint property as a couple, I demanded. I don't have to return it, Bruce retorted stubbornly. No, it's not like that. The money was what I saved bit by bit since I was single. After all, you always quit your jobs midway, so we hardly ever saved money together, did we? I countered, my voice firm. Hearing that the $42,000 had been squandered by Bruce and his mistress was appalling, but it also made me feel relieved about the decision to divorce him. That's how it is. But if you've stolen and used the car and my money, that's going to be a serious crime, I continued. What? I just sent the police away, so it's not their business anymore, right? Bruce tried to dismiss the issue. I only said we would talk. I have no intention of withdrawing the complaint. I must add the theft of my money to the report. I asserted, Russell, should I call the police now? I can do it with just one button on my phone. Julia Bruce's mistress had been silently observing our conversation, but quickly tried to exit the camper van. At that moment, she let out a scream that echoed around us. The reason was startling. Outside the car door, Julia's parents stood, their faces red with anger, ready to explode in fury. Startled, she stepped back as her parents began to yell at her. I'm sorry. Don't be so angry. But why are you here, Mom and Dad? I called your parents beforehand. I revealed, watching the scene unfold. What? Why? Julia stammered, taking it all in. The truth was during my hospital stay, Russell had visited Bruce's office and tearfully told Julia's parents. My dad left the house with another woman. This preemptive move by Russell had brought everything to this pivotal moment, turning the tables on Bruce and Julia dramatically. In the wake of Russell's visible distress and frail demeanor, the staff at Bruce's office had grown suspicious of Julia, who had recently departed the company alongside Bruce. They had noticed the pair being overly friendly and even shared photos of them looking cozy at the welcome party for new employees. Learning from her colleagues that Julia still commuted from her parents' home, Russell managed to obtain her parents' address. With this information, Russell and I visited her parents, armed with a photo of Julia. When we met them, I explained everything that had transpired. Thus today, after contacting Julia's parents again, I asked them to stay nearby for a while, ready to confront their daughter. How could you do this to me? Julia exclaimed, her face a mix of shock and betrayal. I don't want to hear that from you. That's my line, I retorted. Then noticing her pronounced belly, I couldn't help but ask, by the way, your stomach seems quite big. When is the baby due? In 2 months, she replied, flustered. Wait a minute, that doesn't add up. You and my husband met only 2 months ago. What's going on? The timeline was off, and everyone sensed it. This was the first time Bruce heard of the due date, and he stared at Julia with wide eyes. Wait, what does that mean? Are you stupid? Don't you get it? It takes about 8 months from conception to birth, which means the child she's carrying isn't yours. You're so foolish, I pointed out, the realization dawning on him. Julia, now cornered, retorted, What do you mean? Have you been deceived? Oh, I almost got away with it, she confessed with a scoff, her demeanor shifting to resignation. Can't help it now that I'm caught. You're so naive. You can't see through lies at all. A fool. Don't mock me. My whole life is ruined because of you. What were you thinking? Bruce blurted out, his frustration boiling over. Bruce and Julia then started a heated argument, but no one intervened, allowing them to air out their grievances. Meanwhile, we contacted the police again to update them on the situation. As dusk turned to night, the area was illuminated by the red lights of police cars approaching the scene. No, really, I was wrong. I'm truly sorry. I'll work hard and never cheat again, so please just don't arrest me, Bruce pleaded, desperation in his voice. People don't change that easily, especially lazy people like you. Russell chimed in, wise beyond his years. Exactly, Russell's right. I can't trust you, I affirmed, standing firm in the chaotic unraveling of truths. Reflecting on the situation, I firmly told Bruce, think about your actions and prepare to face the consequences at the police station. If I get arrested, I won't be able to pay back the money. Is that okay with you? Bruce pleaded, looking for any leverage to avoid accountability. I don't mind. Pay me back after you've served your time for your crimes. Take your time, don't worry. I've already found you a job. I responded calmly, outlining a clear path forward for restitution. Let's see, there's Russell's child support, plus the $2,000 you owe me. I'm not sure how much it will all add up to, but you'll work and pay it all back, I declared. Turning to Julia, the mistress, I had one last thing to say. You might think you're just an observer here, but don't forget, you're an accomplice to Bruce's theft. Be prepared for the consequences. When I mentioned that Julia would have to pay if Bruce couldn't return the stolen money, she shivered with fear. Julia sought help from her parents, but they sternly refused, declaring, We disown a daughter who causes trouble for others. Thus, Bruce and Julia were taken away in a police car thanks to the smart strategy devised by Russell. Although they were released from detention soon after, they faced a substantial financial obligation to me. Through a lawyer, I claimed $42,000 in damages. Additionally, I secured an agreement from Bruce to pay $1,000 a month in child support for Russell. I also introduced Bruce to a subcontracting factory associated with the company I work for. The support payments and other charges I claimed from Bruce would be deducted directly from his salary and deposited into my account. Furthermore, I sold the camper van, liberating myself from the associated auto loan. Since these changes, my health has improved remarkably. I am now more energetic and committed to my job than ever. Russell, too, has been actively helping with household chores and errands. We are both committed to moving forward strongly so that Russell can pursue whatever path he loves without any hindrances. I'm pregnant with your husband's child. I was speechless at my sister's sudden confession. So I want a divorce. I'm going to remarry your husband. I'm sorry I stole your husband, a doctor earning $10,000 a month. Next to my sister, my husband was looking down at me with a serious face, and my sister's hand was tightly holding his. I was so shocked that I couldn't speak. What's with that face? As usual, you are ugly. That's why your husband has a change of heart. From now on, you are going to live on your meager salary. Hearing my sister's loud laugh, I felt my heart cooling down. I'm the one who wants to say sorry. They probably don't know. I'm laughing in my heart without telling them about my real sister's terrible misunderstanding. My name is Jessica. I've been married to Brandon for 3 years. I met my husband in a university tennis club. Tennis was my only stress relief in my suffocating university life, which was full of studying. Since the club itself was a cheerful activity, I often spotted him on the tennis court on campus, sacrificing my study time. You have a nice warm-up. The first one to talk to me was my husband. My husband, who was in a different faculty and didn't seem to be busy studying, always came to me first when I visited the club. I played tennis until high school. I quit playing seriously because of an injury, but you are good at it. It's completely different from me who is just playing. I can teach you. I think we're a great match. I believed such words, which seemed like a typical pickup line, from the bottom of my heart. In fact, I had never dated a man before and had hardly even had a proper conversation because I was always studying. I was completely taken in by my husband's positive attitude. I had no idea of the hard times awaiting me 5 years later. After graduating from the university, we got married. Although it would be a lie to say that we had no fights or breakups during our school years, I always forgave my husband's sloppy behavior, and our relationship dragged on until graduation. I'm sure I'll become a good husband. How much I believed in his proposal, I wonder. Now it seems doubtful, but at that time, I still had trust in my husband. There were feelings of a 5-year-old rotten relationship. He's not a bad person at heart, and I accepted his proposal with a rather light feeling. We both started working. I had a strong desire to work, and my husband didn't oppose me going out. Rather, I think he encouraged me to go for it. In fact, with the income of 2 people, we had quite a household income. Having this much economic freedom at a young age, I think we were blessed. We didn't have children. For our jobs, it was still early in our careers, so we focused on setting up our lives first. I was climbing up the career ladder smoothly and having fulfilling days. But oh, what's this? I inadvertently went to the smartphone that my husband had left in the living room. A message from an unknown name. Normally, I tried not to pry into his privacy, but my husband had a history of passive cheating. It was back in our student days, but then he was secretly communicating with a girl from another club. I entered my husband's birthday and easily unlocked his smartphone. I opened the messaging app and was shocked. As I feared, there were flirty exchanges with a particular woman recorded. I immediately confronted my husband. His confused state was like a monkey in the zoo. It's not like that. This was just a lapse in judgment. So you admitted cheating? You had a relationship with this woman? Well, let's make love at our usual hotel. Kisses. You are not young to send such a message. She is a high school graduate and a newcomer. Summing up my husband's story, he basically cheated with a new female employee. My husband was her trainer. It's a common story, but I wonder what kind of education he was giving her. I'm really sorry. I swear I won't make such a mistake again. In the end, I forgave my groveling husband. This has been happening since our university days. I can't help but sigh at my sloppy husband's attitude. Unlike our student days, we had too many obligations. If we were to divorce, we would have to report it to our families, friends, and coworkers, and it would make them disappointed. Honestly, it was easier to give my husband a horse golden than to do such troublesome things. I made him write an apology letter. If he made the same mistake again, he wouldn't get away with it. That was a promise. That's how our married life continued, barely surviving several storms. One day, I received news of my father's death. According to my crying mother on the phone, he seemed to have collapsed on the way home from drinking and was taken to the hospital. It appeared to be a stroke. My father's discovery was late, and on top of that, last night was in the middle of winter, so he unfortunately never came back to life. He was 60 years old, just before retirement. I took care of all the funeral arrangements. My mother cried all the time and wasn't in any condition to manage. With the support of relatives and a hollowed-out mother, I barely managed to complete the funeral proceedings. I felt sorry for the inconvenience to the workplace, but my colleagues and superiors never complained. I'll never forget about it. One issue was to deal with my sister. I have a sister 2 years older than me. Her name is Anna. After graduating from high school, my sister left our parents' home, so I hadn't seen her for nearly 10 years. The circumstances of her living were problematic. My sister had always been a troublemaker, causing trouble for our parents. She had been involved with the police more than once or twice. Her relationships with men were particularly unrestrained, and she had been involved with multiple adult men since junior high school. Some of these men were married. Because of my sister's behavior, my parents scolded her all the time. Live a decent life. Don't ruin your own life. Although it was sound advice, it didn't seem to resonate with my sister at all. Finally, it was discovered that she had secretly given money from our house to a male host, which led to a huge fight with both of our parents, especially our father. "Get out," he said. It's not surprising that my father declared this inheritance. I don't even think of you as my daughter anymore. In response to his words, my sister also retorted and stormed out of the house. "He will want to come back to such a poor and gloomy house," as she said. My sister never showed her face to us again until my father passed away. Even though I had to inform her of our father's death, her cell phone number was still the same. So I had to send her a short message informing her of our father's death on the same day. My mom said there's no need for that, I explained. My mom was angry, but I couldn't ignore my sister. There was no contact from my sister until just before the funeral. If she doesn't come, it's fine then, I thought. Just when I was thinking that, my sister finally showed up at the post-cremation meal where we were breaking our fast after mourning. My sister's face, with her makeup thicker by 3 times than before, faced us after about 10 years. So you get married without much upgrading to our late father," she remarked. My sister seemed interested in the fact that I had brought my husband, who had managed to participate in the ceremony during the break from his work. He had been timid, meek as a lamb, until my sister showed up. He is not the type of person who came here briskly in ceremonial situations, I explained. I had a mess his mothering. I wish this would end soon, I thought. "Your husband isn't bad-looking, is he?" My sister asked. "What did you get to know him at work?" "We met through a club in college. Our workplaces are completely different," I replied. You hooked a good one. You were always studying, right?" she continued. "Well, if you could get a man with a decent education, that's good. You don't seem to be struggling with money," she remarked. "Well, since one of us is a doctor, the salary is decent. We both work. But more importantly, you should properly greet our father," I suggested. A doctor," my sister mused, her eyes seeming to plot something. He may have even licked her lips. My husband, subjected to her snake-like gaze, was simply flustered. We disbanded on that day. My sister, who said she would contact me soon, didn't contribute any condolence money in the end. I had no intention of following up on my mother's lament, and fill your child things started to get strange after about 6 months. Although the sadness of losing my father had not yet healed, I had almost completely forgotten about the days of the funeral and my sister. On the other hand, it seems that my sister remembered it well about my husband, Brandon. After work, I saw a familiar figure near the station. The navy suit was the one I had just cleaned for yesterday. What surprised me was the sight of the woman next to him. They were holding hands, looking friendly. Again, my husband's bad habits. As the flames of anger flared up, I realized my husband's crime was not just that. This time I was taken aback more than angry. Next to my husband, flowering her mini-skirt, was my sister, Hannah, holding my husband's hand. My husband cheating with my own sister. I blurted out involuntarily, then decided to follow them. If this is truly an affair, I will not forgive my husband this time. I've been tormented by my husband's womanizing many times, but if it's with my own sister, it's beyond a joke. Moreover, the occasion where they met face to face was at my dad's funeral. I'll definitely catch them in the act. I gritted my teeth and focused on not losing sight of them as expected. They headed towards the hotel district. It was still daytime. My husband was supposed to be at work. I wonder what kind of excuse he used to leave the office. They walked past numerous hotels, glued even closer together. At one of the hotels where they finally stopped, they started kissing. Disgusting. This is the first time I have witnessed my husband's infidelity. Then they went into the hotel in front of them. I called my husband's smartphone after learning the two of them were off the hook for a while, holding back my nausea. After an irritating wait, my husband finally picked up the phone. "What is it?" "I'm working." "There's something I really need to check with you." "Who are you with right now?" "With my colleagues and boss, of course. We have an important meeting coming up." "Oh, so you have important meetings at the Love Hotel Jewelry Resort. Quite a flippant name, isn't it?" "How do you?" "I also know that my sister is with you. You're the one who needs to explain. Just wait there with my sister." After I had an ace up my sleeve, Brandon's voice seemed muffled and raspy. Finally, after checking with my sister, he informed me of the room number. All right. I embraced myself and stormed into the hotel. I explained the situation to the receptionist and paid for another room. After all this humiliation he has put me through, I won't show any mercy to my husband. When I opened the door to room 402, my husband was waiting there with a pale face. He was already dressed in a gown, having taken off his suit. My sister had the same gown as my husband and a mocking expression on her face. The pitiful wife showed up. She started smirking, showing no sign of remorse. On the contrary, she seemed to be enjoying the situation just like half a year ago. Her makeup was heavily plastered like paint. First, I confronted my sister. She was making a creepy face. "Hannah, what are you thinking? You knew he's my husband, and you laid your hands on him, didn't you?" "Well, it's frustrating. After being kicked out of the house, I've had a really hard time. I was even abandoned by the host I was sponsoring. I didn't have a single thing going well for me. Despite all that, you live in a happy married life. You left home because of your selfishness, right? You troubled your parents till the end, and now you will try to ruin my family too." The chaos was there from the start. I heard from Brandon. "It's truly pitiful because you always say harsh things. He doesn't even have a moment of peace at home. That's why I've been comforting him. Don't say whatever you want. This is a problem within our family. So you're just not satisfying your husband, are you? a boring woman like you. I'm different in that respect. I'm satisfying him. That's why we've been going out for half a year now." "You're lying. It's been since right after my father's funeral. Understand me, Jessica. I was at my limit too. You were always nagging me, and there was hardly any marital affection. We haven't even been intimate for over a year now." The husband exposing the couple's shame in front of his wife's sister, although embarrassing as it was to the point of crying. I returned it to my husband. "The reason we couldn't stay as a couple was because of your womanizing. Have you forgotten your promise that you would never be dreaming again? That, and on top of that, how come it's my sister? Besides, right after my father's funeral." "Hey, stop building, Brandon. It's not yours anymore, right, Brandon?" My sister, who had interjected, seemed to be whispering something to my husband. He lifted his head, which had been lowered, and turned to me with determination. Now I was the one taken aback. "Jessica, please divorce me. We're having a baby." "What? You heard it. I'm pregnant." Now, of course, the father is Brandon. We've been making love almost every week since then, and this belly is the fruit of that. While speaking, her sister lovingly struck her belly. I was left speechless. This was no accident, but a deliberate act. From the start, my sister intended to steal my husband, and my husband also intended to end her marriage. That's why they didn't use contraception. They went out of their way to show me the baby in her belly. Too bad you don't stand a chance. He's mine now. He's leaving you and marrying me, right, Brandon? Yeah, let's be happy together. No, the three of us with our baby. I will do my best. You've been dumped. Truly my condolences. There goes your elegant lifestyle. From now on, that will be mine." After my sister's laughter echoed, I left the hotel room. To be honest, I don't remember how I made it home. I vomited 3 times in the toilet at home as I rushed up my stomach acid. I couldn't stop crying. I was more upset about being betrayed than about losing my husband. My husband and sister trampled on my humanity. Moreover, they made use of the baby. I cried all night and greeted the morning with a drained body. From that day on, my husband did not come home. There was no doubt that he had moved into my sister's place. Probably soon, he would pack up and leave. At that time, he might bring divorce papers of me along with a wedding ring we chose together 5 years ago, the worst day of my life. Nevertheless, I couldn't afford to take a day off from work. There were people who depended on me above all. Now, only my work is my anchor. Holding back nausea and tears, I gritted my teeth and headed to the workplace. A week later, while I was working as usual at the workplace, my husband and sister showed up in front of me. I was not very surprised, but the two of them seemed to be quite shocked. As my sister sat in a chair for a patient, holding her belly, she stared at me in my white coat in astonishment. "Why are you here?" "Because this is an obstetrics and gynecology department, and I am on duty today. The doctor who usually examines you is off due to some circumstances." "You are a doctor, but what?" Why Brandon was supposed to be the doctor. My sister looked puzzled, looking back and forth between my husband and me. I found it funny and explained it to her properly. "You must have misunderstood, sister. I am the one who is a doctor. I worked hard to get into medical school. But at the funeral, Brandon said he was a doctor. You got yourself a highly educated husband. I only said if one person is a doctor, the salary will be decent. You misunderstood that, but Brandon said he was a doctor." As my sister's gaze pierced him, my husband, who seemed to have come along as an escort, only turned pale. He repeated clumsy excuses like a fish washed up on the beach. "No, I was actually thinking of talking to you seriously, but then you mentioned getting pregnant." So you lied about being a doctor just to impress my sister and sleep with her. How pathetic. You're an adult doctor. You're a low-paid salesman. Well, that's. What do you mean, no paid? What about $1 million a month? We've already started looking at luxury apartments, and we've even contacted a regular car dealer to get a car. I've already maxed out my credit card on designer bags and shoes. Why would you waste money like that? And why is Jessica even at this hospital? She's supposed to be working at a different hospital. That's why I brought her here. When I took time off for my father's funeral, the doctor from this hospital helped me out multiple times. Now she has a situation, so I'm returning the favor. I've been working hard even while you two were cheating on me, Jessica. Listen, this is the end of us. I'm fed up with you. Go ahead and divorce or remarry, but make sure to pay me alimony. Wait, Jessica, I was wrong. I'll change my ways this time. Let's forget about the divorce for now. What are you saying? Remember when you cheated with a girl from your office? You promised me that if it happened again, you pay whatever amount of alimony I demanded. I showed my husband's written pledge I had taken with my smartphone camera at that time, complete with his signature and thumbprint. My husband let out a silent scream. At least 5 million yen? No, considering it was right after my father's funeral. I could even add a bit more. I'll contact a good lawyer. You two can wait and tremble. Wait, does that mean I have to pay alimony too? Are you going to demand it from me? Of course, that's what it means to steal your sister's husband. Don't worry, I'll give you a grace period until the baby is born. That's my moral obligation as an obstetrician. But instead, make sure you paid up after the baby is born. I'll have you give up all your designer bags and shoes, and I'll add the funeral offering for my father. You apologize on your knees in front of his grave. I glared at my sister and walked away, started the regular examination. As soon as I instructed her to get on the bed, my sister fled the examination room. Perhaps she was afraid of me wearing rubber gloves. My husband remained, seemed to want to say something, but he meekly retreated under the cold stares of the nurses. Thinking that I wouldn't have to see my husband's face anymore, I felt truly liberated. And then another half a year later, it seems that my sister had a baby safely at a different obstetrics and gynecology clinic. Regardless of what my sister has done, the newborn baby is innocent. Knowing it was a healthy baby girl, I had relieved deep down. But as for my sister herself, it's a different story. I don't feel a shred of pity for her. As I declared after the baby was born, I sent my sister a letter demanding alimony. The total is 5.3 million yen. Of course, 300,000 yen is for the condolence money for my father's funeral. I plan to deliver it to my mother. As for my husband, no, my ex-husband, life seems to be quite tough with the alimony he owes me. His workplace also, due to the rumors of his affair, he had no choice but to resign. It seems difficult for him to get rehired as a full-time employee. I heard he's juggling temp jobs now. As for who spread the rumors of the affair at his former workplace, I think it's best left unsaid. Furthermore, through the grapevine, I heard he hasn't gotten over his womanizing ways. He seems to be injuring my sister by hitting on any woman close at hand. At this rate, they seem like a suitable couple, and I feel truly refreshed being able to break up with my ex-husband. Now I'm dedicating myself to my work as an obstetrician. Today, 2 mothers-to-be with big bellies are waiting for my help. You can't even do household chores, so we might as well get a divorce. And you better give me your assets too, James said with a smirk as he walked into the hospital room. I was hooked up to many machines, but that didn't stop him. A girl I didn't know stood next to him. James didn't realize I had $10 million in assets. He should understand that a divorce in this situation would be a matter of life and death for a housewife like me. I have the divorce papers, I thought. I couldn't stay with a man who verbally abused his wife. I pulled out the divorce papers I always carried with me and handed them to James, grinning. He accepted them. Now I can say goodbye to you. I'll be happy with her, so don't worry, right, Patricia? James said, wrapping his arm around the girl's waist. Her name was Patricia Heaton. James sneered at me, and she said, "Take care, Mrs. O. You're not Mrs. anymore." "Take care, ma'am." They both laughed as they left the room, but their happiness wouldn't last. Alone in the room, I laughed out loud. Today is Friday, so the divorce will be processed on Monday. I can't wait for 3 days from now. My name is Nicole Wallace. I'm a 47-year-old housewife. My family runs a regular farm. I don't have any special skills, but I'm proud of my vast cooking repertoire. My husband, James, is the same age as me, and we were college classmates. We both came to Florida from the countryside. Since we both lived alone, I used to cook various dishes for James using the vegetables and rice sent from my family. People often said I captured his heart through his stomach, and I knew it was true. James has always been incapable of doing any household chores. I've been taking care of him since we started dating, and after we got married, I continued to handle all the household tasks. Sadly, we didn't have children, but we enjoyed our life together as a couple. We both love to eat, and on James's days off, we often go on drives to enjoy delicious food. When we first got married, James was kind, but after about 5 years, he became controlling. He never hit me, but his remarks became harsh, often saying, "Whose money do you think we're living on?" Those words hurt, but I didn't have the energy to fight back, assuming he wouldn't listen anyway. Being a full-time housewife made me feel inferior, and I couldn't stand up to him. James joined a well-known company after graduating from university, but quit after about 6 years. He quickly found new jobs but would resign from them after short periods. Because of this, our income was unstable. We managed by looking for money-saving tips, but often struggled with our finances. However, at the company he'd been with for the past 3 years, he seemed to get along with his colleagues. I had faint hopes he might stay there for a long time. Then one day, James came home earlier than usual. "I'm home." "I quit my job," he said. "What again?" I said, surprised. James's eyebrows twitched. I stopped cooking and rushed over to him. "I'm sorry, I was just shocked," I said. "No, welcome back, and you're criticizing what I do." "You've become quite bold," James said. His words made me freeze. James was in a very bad mood, and if I said the wrong thing, it could get worse. "I'm sorry," I said, "as long as you understand." He replied, somewhat placated. He sat on the sofa and turned on the TV. I quietly placed a beer and a glass on the table. "Do you want dinner or a bath?" I asked. "Food and alcohol," he replied. To avoid upsetting James, I played the role of a submissive wife. I once had a strong sense of self, but after 16 years of marriage to James since the age of 30, I really showed my true self. After eating and drinking to his heart's content, James fell asleep snoring on the sofa. The table was a mess, like a child had eaten there. I cleaned up the fallen beer bottles and food scraps on the floor. It wasn't supposed to be like this, recalling my dreams of a happy married life from my girlhood days. My true feelings slipped out. I glanced at James suddenly, but he showed no signs of waking. Relief washed over me, but I also felt dread about continuing this life. Maybe I should consider divorce. I started planning my schedule for the next day, determined to face the issues I had been avoiding. The next day, James started visiting the employment office and quickly secured another job. While he was job hunting, I went to the city office and signed divorce papers. I wasn't ready to submit them, but having them felt like a kind of protection. I hid the signed divorce papers at the bottom of my bag. If James found them, who knows what he might say or do. "Hey, where did you go while I was job hunting?" he asked. I went to the stationery store to buy some resumes. "Look, I thought you might need them," I said, trying to sound normal. James, who got home before I did, initially interrogated me suspiciously, but quickly cheered up. I handed him the resumes I had bought earlier. After receiving them, James said he was going out for drinks with a friend and left. James's new job was at a reputable company with a solid salary and better benefits than any job he'd had before. When he got promoted after working there for about 2 years, he celebrated with a drink. I secretly hoped that maybe this time he would work there until retirement. James' department seemed to be in sales, and he started to leave home more frequently for evening events. I enjoyed my brief moments of freedom and gathered energy to greet James with a smile when he returned. One day, I received a call from my mother after a long time. Hearing her excited story took me by surprise. $10 million? I asked, stunned. Yes, $10 million. You know the mountains and lands we owned. We don't need them anymore. We had them appraised, and they are worth $15 million. We only need $3 million to enjoy the rest of our lives. So I think you might want to rethink your life too, she said. My mother was never fond of James. She was worried about me, especially after James became more controlling, preventing me from even visiting my childhood home. I was stunned by the amount she mentioned. Furthermore, I was shocked to learn that when my mother inherited the property from my grandmother, she changed the title to my name, so there were no inheritance taxes. "It's better not to tell James, but the final decision is yours," she said, hanging up the phone. I felt conflicted between the urge to immediately inform James and the desire to live freely with that money. About a week later, I was involved in a traffic accident. Thankfully, my life wasn't in danger, but I need to stay in the hospital for about a week. After storing my valuables in the hospital room drawer, I immediately contacted James. "I'm sorry I got injured," I said. What about my meals?" James's reaction made me almost laugh, prioritizing his meals over my injury. "I'll need to be hospitalized for a week." "I'm really sorry, but could you buy your meals elsewhere until then?" Not even preparing meals for your husband. What a lazy wife. "Oh wait, I'm coming over now," James said and ended the call abruptly. I was planning to tell him about the inheritance tonight, but now I thought it might be best not to mention it. Looking at all the tubes attached to me, I had a feeling my intuition was right. "You're useless, can't even do housework. Let's get a divorce, and you better pay me compensation too," James said with a smirk as soon as he entered the room. I was connected to several machines, and a girl I didn't recognize stood beside him. James didn't know that my total assets amounted to $10 million. He should realize that a divorce under these circumstances would be a life and death matter for me. A housewife? "Fine, here's the divorce papers," I said. I couldn't stay with a man who would hurl abuse at his wife in this condition. I handed him the divorce papers I had kept as a sort of charm. James took them with a smug smile on his face. "With this, I can finally say goodbye to you. I'm going to be happy with her, right, Patricia?" James said, wrapping his arm around the girl's waist. The girl named Patricia leaned against James and scoffed at me. "Take care, madam." "Oh, you're not a madam anymore, so take care, old lady," she said. With those words, they both left the room laughing. But their joy would be short-lived. Left alone in my room, I burst out laughing. Today is Friday, so the divorce papers would only be processed on Monday. Oh, I cannot wait for 3 days from now, I thought. Just as I had expected, the weekend went by without any contact from James, and it was quite peaceful. I was restless, not used to doing nothing since getting married. I was always busy. Every time I got restless, the nurses told me to stay calm. Then on Monday evening, I received a bunch of calls from James. I ignored them at first, but after 15 minutes of constant ringing, I decided to answer. Could you not be so persistent? I said, "Hey, what's the meaning of this?" James shouted as soon as I picked up. I couldn't help but laugh. James seemed infuriated by my laughter and started screaming incoherently. "What are you talking about?" I asked. "Don't play dumb. The divorce papers aren't being accepted, are they?" James was huffing and puffing on the other side of the phone. I continued to chuckle and responded to his complaint. Oh, I had previously filed a non-acceptance notification. Remember how you used to say, "Let's get divorced," every time we had a fight? I thought it wouldn't be good if you filed for divorce on a whim during one of our arguments. Ew, but I don't need that now. Withdraw it immediately, James demanded. I can't do that until I'm discharged. We need to go through procedures at the municipal office, I said. Then discharge now, don't be unreasonable. His selfish demands made me laugh even more. He probably wanted to register his marriage with Patricia, whom he brought on Friday. By the way, was her name Patricia? She's your mistress, right? Hey, that's rude to Patricia. Apologize. She's my new wife. We are not divorced yet, so she's technically your mistress, isn't she? I responded calmly. James made a weird groaning sound. I decided to hit him where it hurt the most. By the way, you'll hear from my lawyer about the division of property. That's right, property, including this trouble. You better share properly. I'm not sure why he misunderstood, but James suddenly sounded in high spirits. After all, the responsible party has to pay the compensation. I had always done my household chores diligently, and of course I had never cheated on him. It's clear as day that James is the responsible party. What are you misunderstanding? You're the one who has to give me the assets, James responded, genuinely confused. He likely believed that by not taking care of him while I was hospitalized, I would truly be at fault. Even in my parents' time, one wouldn't be deemed at fault for such a reason. I bitterly thought this as I listened to his rant. I explained to him patiently, "What fault of mine are you talking about? Just so you know, not being able to do housework because I'm in the hospital doesn't make me at fault. You've abandoned taking care of me. If you were a child, it would be considered normal, but you're an adult and should be able to take care of yourself. That's why it doesn't make me at fault. If I say you're at fault, then you're at fault." James insisted. Even a judge would be shocked by his baffling logic. I pictured myself face-palming. Did he really think such childish reasoning would work? Don't you know what's legally defined as grounds for fault? Being at fault means things like infidelity, like having another woman despite having a wife. That's why Patricia is my new wife, and you're no longer of any use to me. So it doesn't apply, right? What are you talking about? Since you were dating her behind my back, it's clearly cheating, I said. James still didn't seem to understand. He was set on believing he was right. Either way, please communicate through a lawyer from now on. Goodbye, he shouted. Hey, Nicole. But I hung up the phone without listening to his protests. He called multiple times, but when I ignored him, he eventually gave up and went silent. I was relieved, but the next day, another headache-inducing event occurred. Feeling frustrated by the nonstop ringing from 9 o'clock in the morning, I pressed the call button. On the other end, James was complaining at me like a machine gun. At first, I wasn't sure what he was saying, but piecing it together, it seemed he was complaining about not being able to withdraw money from a bank account. If it's a joint account, James should be able to withdraw without any issue, I recalled. But if not, I remembered the bank cards and passbooks I had left at home and asked, "Were you trying to take money from my account by any chance?" "Exactly," he replied. "You're still in the hospital, and I was going to take the money into account, but the card won't work." James rumbled on with his unreasonable argument. It seemed he didn't understand what I said yesterday when I was scheduled to be hospitalized for a week. I had called the bank and requested they prevent withdrawals until I was discharged. It was to prevent James, who was reckless with money, from depleting my savings while I was in the hospital. My decision was proven right. It's unthinkable to try to withdraw money from the account of an ex-wife you've divorced, I told him. However, James didn't see anything wrong with it and asked me to make a withdrawal immediately. "What are you talking about? We are practically strangers now. Why would I do as you say?" I replied, "You and my life haven't changed. Even if we're getting divorced, act like a proper wife and listen to me," James insisted. "We are not legally divorced yet, but we are already strangers, got it?" "Unfortunately, I don't have money to give to strangers," I said. James was shocked since I had never resisted him this much before, but he quickly became assertive again. "Just do as I say. Send the money now. Pay the compensation for not doing housework," he demanded. Even though he was academically capable when we first met, he seemed to lack common sense. 18 years into our marriage, it was clear I had made a poor choice in a partner. James seemed frustrated that I wasn't giving in. He likely had exhausted his cash on hand and probably dipped into the living expenses I had left at home and from our shared account. I spoke to James as if I was talking to a small child. "Listen, I'm no longer your submissive wife. We'll settle a property division through a lawyer later on." "What? You're so insolent. I'm coming over right now." "Just wait," James said, hanging up the phone. I didn't mind if he came to the hospital, but I had already asked the nurses' station not to let anyone in except for my parents, so it was unlikely he'd make it to my room. James really did come to the hospital, but as expected, he was stopped at the nurses' station. My phone kept ringing, but after ignoring it for a while, it switched to messages, and my screen was flooded with notifications. I saved all of them as evidence and contacted my lawyer. After a while, it seemed the lawyer had gotten in touch with James as the messages stopped coming in. I thought it was the end, but my hopes were about to be dashed. "There's a visitor named Julia. Would you like to see her?" the nurse asked. "Julia, please let her in," I replied. Julia was a friend who shared my hobbies. Back then, when I was single, Julia and I became close after she responded to my posts on social media where I shared my dining experiences. We discovered we lived nearby and often went out to eat together. After getting married, I couldn't dine out as much to save money, but we kept in touch by regularly meeting for tea and chats. "Nicole, are you okay from the injury?" Julia asked as soon as she entered the room. "Yes, I'm feeling much better now. Thank you," I replied. Julia's immediate concern warmed my heart. I realized that since my hospitalization, aside from my parents and the hospital staff, no one had shown concern for me. "Hey, Nicole, things are tough for you right now, aren't they?" Julia asked. "Huh, why?" I hadn't told anyone about my situation other than my parents. I wondered how Julia knew and asked her. In a treat, Julia then said something shocking. "You know Patricia, the young girl, right? She's having an affair with your husband, isn't she?" "What? How do you know about that? Wait, you know her." "Actually, she's my niece," Julia replied hesitantly. I was so surprised that I couldn't close my mouth. Who would have thought that Julia was Patricia's aunt? The room went silent. It was the first time there was silence when Julia was around, and it made me feel uneasy. Patricia suddenly told her mother, my sister, that she's getting married. What's more shocking is that her partner is 47 years old. When I saw the photo, it was your husband. I was so surprised. I've already told my sister. I'm so sorry for all the trouble my niece has caused you, Nicole. Don't apologize, Julia. It's not your fault, I said. Julia looked like she was about to cry. I'm thinking of demanding compensation from Patricia. I can't compromise on that. But if I do, does this mean our relationship will end? Of course not. I want to continue being friends with you, Nicole. I'll make sure Patricia pays compensation. Neither my sister nor I can forgive what she's done. We'll keep a close eye on her, Julia said. I was very grateful for Julia's words. We've been friends for over 22 years. I didn't want to lose a precious friend because of my terrible husband and his mistress. I scheduled a meeting with them tomorrow, and I'd like you to come with me, Julia said. Of course, I'll be there. And I can also provide photos as evidence of their affair, I replied. The next day, fresh from being discharged from the hospital, I prepared for the meeting. I went to a private restaurant room with my lawyer, James, and Patricia. They had already arrived and were indulging in an expensive traditional meal. I was speechless at their audacity. You finally made it. Did you bring the money? Remember, you were paying for this meal, James said without even stopping his meal. Patricia continued to eat with a smug look on her face. I decided to fight back. Please handle the payment yourselves. I came here to demand a fair share of the assets from the two of you. How long are you going to hold? You're really unattractive, James remarked rudely, ignoring his comments. My lawyer and I took our seats and showed evidence proving James was at fault. We first presented legal documents about the reasons for liability, followed by documents on property division. Lastly, we showed the photos Julia had provided, which showed Patricia and James together, as well as Patricia with another man entering a hotel. Wait, why, hey, Patricia, what is this? James and Patricia were visibly shaken by the photos and finally stopped eating. Just then, Julia made her timely entrance. I took those photos, Julia said. Patricia seemed confused as to why her aunt was present. With cold eyes, Julia looked down at Patricia and James and calmly spoke about being friends with me for 22 years and how their actions were despicable. Patricia, you mentioned that the baby you're carrying is his. But given your actions, who knows who the father is? Wait, no, This was the first time I was hearing about her pregnancy. Judging by her appearance today, one would never guess she was pregnant. However, James's reaction showed he believed her claim. So you're pregnant. In that case, after a DNA test, I'll demand an additional penalty. No, I'm sorry. I lied about the pregnancy. Please forgive me, Patricia suddenly admitted, bowing deeply. She had been searching for wealthy old men, and James was her target. He bought her designer goods and promised her a life where she wouldn't have to work and could do as she pleased. She believed she could be a housewife and occasionally have flings with men of her choice. She had once lied about being pregnant because James showed no signs of wanting to divorce. James froze with his mouth open when he heard this. I'm truly sorry, but I can't give you anything. I don't have the money, he said. I'll pay in advance, Patricia. You're going to work part-time diligently every month and repay me. You won't have any free time until you've paid me back in full, Julia said firmly. Oh no, Patricia looked disheartened. Julia mentioned she would bring Patricia back later for another apology and took her out of the restaurant. James in shock the entire time seemed to snap back to reality and approached me in a flattering tone. "Look, it seems I was deceived. I can't live without you, Nicole. Right, we still have the divorce papers here. Can we start over? You've always been a housewife, so you can't possibly work now, can you?" He pleaded. I listened to James's pleas with a cold gaze, none of which moved me. I waited for him to finish before answering with a smile, "I can live just fine without you. I'll be taking the divorce papers and filing them shortly. Also, I never mentioned this, but my personal net worth is currently around $10 million, so I can live comfortably without working for the rest of my life. Rest assured." "10 million? Why did you keep such a fortune a secret?" James asked, shocked. "I was about to tell you when you started making a fuss about divorce. This money is my personal inheritance, so it doesn't count towards marital assets. It has nothing to do with you," I replied. James looked at me with utter despair. My lawyer quickly produced some documents and a pen for James to sign. The lawyer and I then left and immediately filed for divorce, ending our almost 22-year marriage. Later, Patricia transferred some money to my account. Upon learning of this incident, Patricia's mother was furious. She made Patricia take a leave from university and work nonstop at a relative's inn until she paid the compensation. James, on the other hand, was disowned by his in-laws after they learned about the divorce. He was told he wouldn't receive any assistance, so he reluctantly took out a loan and paid me in one lump sum. Furthermore, it was revealed that he had been with Patricia at a hotel during work hours. He was fired from his job and is now juggling multiple construction jobs to repay his debts. As for me, even after receiving such a large sum, I didn't know what to spend it on, so I donated half to charity. I then moved to the countryside with the remaining money and am now enjoying a luxurious single life. I've continued my friendship with Julia. On our days off, we go on food tours and short trips. We both plan to stay single, so I suggested maybe we should share a room. Initially hesitant, Julia agreed when I mentioned we could share deliveries and she could join my meals. Moving preparations started the following week. As I packed up my old life, I felt a sense of excitement and anticipation for the new chapter ahead. The thought of living true to myself, free from the chains of a toxic marriage, filled me with joy. Julia and I found a beautiful house in the countryside. It was spacious and surrounded by lush greenery. We both loved the tranquility it offered, a stark contrast to the chaos and stress of city life. We set up a cozy living space, complete with a kitchen where we could continue our culinary adventures. As we settled into our new home, our days were filled with laughter and good food. We explored local markets, tried new recipes, and even started a small vegetable garden. The simplicity of our routine brought immense satisfaction. Julia and I grew even closer, sharing not just our home, but also our dreams and plans for the future. Despite the hardships I faced, I realized that my life had taken a turn for the better. The toxic relationship with James was a thing of the past, and I had found a true friend in Julia. Together, we built a life filled with love, respect, and mutual support. One sunny afternoon, as Julia and I enjoyed a picnic in our garden, I reflected on my journey. I had gone from feeling trapped and undervalued to experiencing freedom and contentment. I had discovered strength I didn't know I possessed and learned the importance of standing up for myself. The lessons I learned during my marriage and the subsequent divorce were invaluable. They taught me resilience and the importance of self-worth. I realized that happiness comes from within, and that surrounding yourself with supportive people makes all the difference. Julia and I often talked about our future plans. We dreamed of traveling, exploring new cuisines, and perhaps starting a small business together. The possibilities seemed endless, and for the first time in a long while, I felt truly optimistic about the future. Life in the countryside was peaceful and fulfilling. The fresh air, the sound of birds, and the beauty of nature provided a perfect backdrop for our new beginning. I had found a sense of purpose and joy in the simple things, and it was a feeling I cherished deeply. As the days turned into weeks, and then months, Julia and I continued to thrive. Our bond grew stronger, and our friendship became the foundation of our happiness. We supported each other through thick and thin, always knowing that we had someone to rely on. Looking back, I realized that leaving James was the best decision I ever made. It allowed me to rediscover myself and build a life filled with love, laughter, and true companionship. Julia and I had created a haven where we could be ourselves, free from judgment and filled with joy. In the end, I learned that life's challenges often lead to unexpected blessings. My journey taught me the importance of self-respect, the power of friendship, and the beauty of living authentically. I was excited for the future, knowing that with Julia by my side, anything was possible. I was determined to live my life joyfully and true to myself from now on.